Welcome to the inaugural episode of Season 3 of This Is Why I Don't Vote, a podcast. Your safe space to discuss sports, politics, social issues, and even religion, where we will take it all very seriously, but not too seriously. The first episode of the third season. At the end of Season 2, I spoke about lofty goals. There was going to be video. This video was going to be published on the YouTube, on the Instagram. There was going to be potentially a reboot of the theme of the podcast. As I've said before, I'm not entirely happy with how the podcast presents. That's, of course, my fault. It's a one-man show. But I wanted to address as much, and I thought I could, by giving the show a makeover, so to speak. By actually rebooting it, changing the name, changing the direction, maybe even changing the intro music. Well, I toyed with the video. I toyed with recording it. I toyed with editing it. And I now know why so many video editors can warrant such monies to be paid to them in order to edit videos. This is a time-consuming process, and it's not an easy process. It's not easy to identify all the tools necessary to make the video look polished. It's not easy incorporating video, movie clips, things of that nature into your video clip that you've recorded, particularly when those video clips run, let's say, 9, 10, 12 minutes. And so most people outsource it. And that's what I wanted to do. But given the fact that I'm switching careers and am taking on quite a bit in that career change, I did not have the financial resources to not only fund a podcast that is not generating a ton of money, but fund a podcast that's not generating a ton of money to also incorporate video. Oh, I still have goals for the podcast. I just feel that if I'm going to continue to create this content and I'm going to engage in a career change, I don't know that incorporating such ambitious goals into the podcast in the short term is a reasonable ask. I very well see some of these things occurring when I'm able to outsource, when I'm able to spend more money, and you've got to spend money in order to make money. In addition to, and having said all of that, I am going to do podcast segments, plural, on focusing on your strengths and trying to limit or round out any of your weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses that I have no lack of ideas. And I have no lack of energy or ambition to put those ideas down by way of audio or even a video recording. What I don't have strength in, what I am weak in, is actually the time and the knowledge, the wisdom even, to edit all of that type of content. There is a part of me that believes that if I put my mind to it, I can accomplish anything, and that is true. But how many things can you put your mind to and accomplish in a 24-hour period? As far as the theme and a potential reboot or a change in the theme, I just didn't feel it was the right time. And that has to do with me. I have to be able to speak a different voice if I'm going to have a different theme, if I'm going to have a reboot of the podcast. It's going to be more spiritually oriented. It's going to be more enlightened, if you will. And that's what this year is going to be about. This podcast is actually going to be intentionally, although it probably has been from its inception, intentionally my springboard into more dynamic growth, into more dynamic change. Part and parcel with that springboard is I need to be more in tune with all these different areas of my life. What was interesting about the podcast in the first 2 seasons is I really didn't associate my name with it in its promotion, and I certainly didn't associate any aspect of my career in the podcast. I wanted to keep those things separate. I wanted to segregate all of those elements. And to be honest about why I think that was, I was a dick in the way that I approached a lot of the topics that I covered. And I'm not ashamed of my opinions. I'm ashamed, or at least I'm not proud of the way they were presented. And that's another reason why I'm including old clips in this new season. There is a definite change in the tone of my voice over the course of the last 2 years. In listening to the clips of UFOs and aliens that I recorded in the first season, they've got sharp edges. They're rough. And that, of course, is a reflection of me. I had sharp edges. I was rough. So this is a way that I can own who I was, and it can be that fire, that inspiration for me to become the person I more want to be. So although I didn't have all of the ambitious evolution that I wanted, part of the evolution of Season 3 will be using my name, Patrick Knackley, as part of the marketing of this podcast, incorporating more of my career and my personal life into the podcast, even to the extent that I believe I did in the first 2 seasons. Just having it all be part of the same level of consciousness, on the same wavelength. It's funny, I've been doing this for 2 years, and there's still this part of me that is reluctant to put myself out there in such a vulnerable way. And maybe that's the reason why the video hasn't come together yet. It's that I'm not really ready to put my face and my name and my voice out there together. Or maybe it's just because it's hard as hell to do all those things. I don't have the time or the knowledge, the sophistication to do that all myself as I do with the audio portion of just a podcast, and I certainly don't have the money right now to outsource all of it. To that point, time and money, I really don't have the time to be putting out these episodes as early as I am, still building out the business that I'm building. What business is that, you might ask? It's life insurance. It's called premium finance. It's an exclusive life insurance contract. And when I say exclusive, I mean it because for years it was only available to people that had a $5 million net worth. These policies are now available to people like you and me. I'd like to think that I have a number of listeners that have $5 million in net worth. Again, because I know most of you, I don't think that's the case. So there are now premium finance life insurance contracts that are available to the public, to the average Jane and Joe like you and me. What I'm called to do is help people understand what opportunities they have in these contracts and to try to set them up not only for income, financial freedom when they want it, set them up for generational wealth. It is surprising how many people have significant holdings in a 401k or an IRA and really don't have any significant amount of life insurance. That is fodder for another segment and another episode for another day. What's on tap for this week? Well, I don't have a ton of time to record an entire episode, but it just can't be left alone. UFOs, aliens, it's all the rage again. And folks, I'm not convinced. I'm not buying. I am trying to be sympathetic to this energy, to these people. And they are legion. They are strong. They believe firmly that aliens, or to be fair, more likely unidentified flying objects are in fact real, are in fact all over planet Earth, and are not being controlled by or spawned by any other government. 2 of the most popular episodes of the podcast were the 2 episodes where I actually addressed UFOs and aliens. And so in an effort to actually get a podcast episode out, I'm going to rebroadcast those 2 segments with an original segment addressing the latest phenomenon in my impressions. I don't buy. I do not buy.
Act 1 on the latest UFO and alien phenomenon. Nope. I'm not convinced.
Nope. Not one bit. Not one bit. This latest news does not change my opinion one bit. And I think there's some very interesting elements, if not just one, to this story that is curiously overlooked. Curious to the point that I can't take any of this story seriously. I can't give any of the UFO hysteria any of my energy because overlooking such an element, overlooking such a fact in this story, makes the whole thing seem like a farce. The story at a high level is that people see a balloon and they record it and they publish it, and the military, the government, they are forced in this situation, right? They don't have any choice because now this information is public. They are forced to take some kind of action. And yes, they end up shooting this balloon down. There's this hysteria over this story, and in the midst of that hysteria, the government, the military, NORAD, comes out and says, look, we did not calibrate the instruments such that they would track objects this small in size, and if we had, we would have picked it up, and recalibrating these instruments to pick up objects this small, there have been many objects that have flown through U.S. airspace that were not intercepted by the military or even any kind of civilian air traffic. Numerous people are commenting on this story and commenting on the possibilities. What if those instruments had been calibrated properly? What has been flying through the skies uninterrupted of the United States of America? Let's analyze this one element, this one point, this one fact of the story. How much money, dear listener, do you believe that the U.S. government has spent in tax dollars on our air defense system, on the sophisticated radars that we employ, on our aerospace defense? How much money would you think aggregately we spent as a nation in tax dollars since, let's say, 1980? The year of our Lord, 1980. How much money do you think we've spent? $1 trillion? $2 trillion? Maybe $3 trillion. Over the course of the last 40 years, as a nation, we could have easily spent $3 trillion. And you factor in that the latest defense budget that passed through that lame duck Congress last year was $857 billion. The defense budget alone for 1 year is close to $1 trillion. Why do I belabor? Why do I go on? You're telling me that these craft can enter U.S. airspace undetected, fly around, possibly take pictures, who knows, abduct people, whatever, and we have no idea because the dials weren't turned properly? You didn't have the dials turned right? The instruments weren't calibrated properly? That's your excuse? Here's where we go binary. This is the proper place, dear listener, to get binary. We are too often binary on how we judge people, how we judge ourselves, how we judge things, how we judge places. Let's get binary here. If we've spent $3 trillion on such a sophisticated air defense system, and it can be completely useless, it can be made completely useless because we simply didn't turn the dials right, you want me to buy that? You want me to buy in the same breath that the same people who didn't turn the dials right are part of a huge governmental conspiracy to keep from us the existence of alien spacecraft, of potentially alien life, of these unidentified flying objects? That's what you want me to believe. Look at that from a binary standpoint. You've got the most sophisticated equipment on Earth, that it can be all subverted because we didn't have the dials turned right, and then in the same breath, you want to tell me that the entity that's responsible with all of this sophisticated technology and all of this money and all of this energy that's been supplied it over the course of the last 40 years, they're engaged in this massive conspiracy to withhold from us alien spacecraft or alien life. Which is it, dear listener? Are these brilliant conspiracists, or are they bumbling buffoons? It can't be both. There's your binary equation. It's either a 1 or a 0. Are they grossly incompetent, or are they in on some massive conspiracy? And the old me would go in on a ton of speculation as to what's really going on. And frankly, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not speculating in the political realm or the religious realm or the social realm. I'm not speculating on these issues when we've been given such incomplete information. And to the extent that we've even been given information, it is, to my mind, blatantly contradictory. I will pose a question to you, though, dear listener. What do you think about spying and the extent to which each nation around the world not only spies, but is aware that it's being spied on? How much do you think the United States is aware that it's being spied on every day? How much do you think that China is aware that Russia is spying on it, that Israel is spying on it, that the United States is spying on it? How much do you believe that these nations' governments understand, realize, have an acute awareness of the level of spying that's going on? Not the spying that they're doing, the level of spying that's being conducted in and around their own country. Let me pose this hypothetical situation to you. Let's just say that it's possible that China, Russia, let's just say that they're spying on us all the time, and that they're spying on us all the time with a number of different low-tech devices and high-tech devices, and that the United States, for its part, is aware of it all, that there are echelons within the military hierarchy, the governmental hierarchy. They're aware of all of it. They know exactly where the balloon is, the microphone is, the satellite is. The people who don't know are you and me. We're the ones who don't know the extent to which these nations are spying on us and the extent to which our nation is spying on others. And what happens on occasion, and you hear this in different news stories pop up, the one that just comes to mind right now is coming through me is when Obama was president and the United States was caught spying on Germany, Angela Merkel, and her office. Occasionally, this stuff becomes public. And when it does, these nations have to look bold and make a bold stand. What if, dear listener, they're all aware of it at all times? What if, because all of this spying is going on, and these governments know the kind of reaction that the people would have if they were aware that their nation was being spied on, these governments actually keep it from us. They don't want to rile the population, to have the population get into some jingoistic, some nationalistic mood, some fervor, and demand that some action be taken against those other nations, or that in particular nation. Why? All of these national governments know that everyone's spying on everyone else, that if the people found out about it, there'd be this massive uprising. There'd be different nations where there'd be calls to action, calls to arms. And so they just keep it from us. And in this particular circumstance, because the Chinese balloon became visible to people on the ground, the U.S. government and the U.S. military had no choice. They had to take some sort of action. Don't you find it curious, dear listener, that no action was taken for what? 6, 7, 8 days? That the balloon wasn't shot down for approximately a week? Story comes out that a couple of these balloons traversed the United States during the Trump administration. He vehemently comes out and denies it. What if all the governments are in on it because all the governments are guilty? What do you think, dear listener? Is it possible that this is going on day in and day out, that we don't know about it? And the only reason why we don't know about it is because our government wants to keep that secret from us. Not that these are alien spacecraft, not that these are UFOs, that we are being spied on all the time. And that's just part of this international game. And if the people of each of these nations knew the extent to which other nations were spying on us, hell, we might demand action. We might demand violent action. Even worse, we might demand economic action. We might compromise the business interests of a lot of powerful corporations around the world. Feel into that and tell me that the government is involved in some massive conspiracy to hide from us the existence of alien spacecraft.
Act 2 from Season 1, Episode 2. Originally aired February 27th, 2021. You know aliens aren't real, right?
Aliens aren't real, right? You know that. You're aware of that. There's absolutely no proof whatsoever that alien life in any way has ever been found on planet Earth. That alien life has ever touched down on planet Earth. That alien life has ever communicated in any way with anyone on planet Earth. After consulting the Google machine, it appears that in the United States, 1/3 of the population believes that alien spacecraft have visited or routinely, regularly visit the planet Earth. About 3/4, 75% of people in the United States believe that alien life exists on other planets. As support for these beliefs, these folks point to what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing that they can point to objectively in order to support these beliefs. Aliens are nothing more than 21st century dragons. You take a poll of the number of Americans that believe the dragons exist, I don't think you'll find that it's anywhere close to 1/3 of the population. As a sad commentary on the state of humanity, it might be 1/4 of the population. I'd much rather it be closer to 1% of the population. I think the truth probably falls somewhere around 10%. If you told me that 10% of the population was too stupid to be trusted to chew bubblegum and walk without hurting themselves, I'd accept as much. So 10% or thereabouts believing that dragons exist, that seems appropriate. So how is it that people still believe in aliens and don't believe in dragons? In the Middle Ages, people blamed everything on the dragon. Livestock dying mysteriously? Dragon. Townsfolk traveling to peddle their wares, never returning? Dragon. Mongol hordes descending from the Eurasian steppe? We can't go anywhere. We can't flee for fear of the dragon. As the world grew up, as it woke up, well, the myth of the dragon was slain. Likewise, the myth of the alien will soon be slain. This alien nonsense has about 25 more years left in it. 25 years. After 25 years, no even moderately rational person will be able to claim that there's any alien life that's ever touched this planet, and moreover, the likelihood that alien life exists anywhere in the universe. Why 25 years? Why? Because I'm a generous man. Because I believe in you as a people, as a species. In 25 years, I think it's reasonable to say that 90% of the human beings on this planet will have mobile phones. They will have access to a mobile phone on their person at all times. Even the most basic model of those mobile phones will have the capacity to record video and audio. What do we know of the human species when given a device that can record both audio and video? Well, that simple creature is going to record every goddamn thing that's ever happened to them or anyone they've ever known, or anything that's happened in the vicinity that they're in, without discrimination. What else can we expect to occur over the course of the next 25 years? 20 years ago, social media outlets were actually primitive marketplaces. Not as many users, not as much reach. There is no telling what kind of advancements will be made in technology and will be made in these social media platforms over the course of the next 25 years. But looking at it from the prism of today, this is the form by which people communicate. Who calls anyone anymore? Who really emails anyone anymore? People post online via the social media outlet, and even when they want to communicate exclusively with another user, they will direct message that user utilizing the social media platform. The social media platform is then the outlet by which people communicate. Did you have a meal? Did you consume some food, thereby sustaining your life force? Well, by all means, take a photograph of it and post it. Did you procreate? Did in the course of that procreation, your spawn begin to grow, develop? By all means, post it online. Have you gone from point A to point B? You are the 21st century Magellan. Amazing. Please, photograph it all, video it all, and post it online. Every pile of slop you've consumed, every dumbass thing that your children have done, every place you've gone to drink terrible alcoholic beverages and buy kitschy crap like magnets for your refrigerator to memorialize the trip, it's all been posted online, hasn't it? Let's look at a modern event. Cold in Texas, isn't it? Not just cold. It's blizzard cold. It's state of emergency cold. The junior senator from the state of Texas, Ted Cruz, a real person, is in the airport, a real place, going on a vacation to Cancun, a real destination. What happens? The man is immediately identified by other passengers, real people, in the airport, a real place. And what do? They take photos. They take video. And what do they do with these photos? With this video? They post it online. Ted Cruz is waiting for an upgrade on the flight to Cancun. Another passenger takes a photograph of the upgrade list that's posted by the gate, and before you know it, that photograph is online. There is no doubt that Cruz was in the airport. There is no doubt that Cruz was flying to Cancun in the middle of a national emergency in his home state. The internet's proved as much. There's practically nothing that can occur in the normal course of anyone's life that then cannot also be published on social media. The internets have proven as much. And yet somehow, you still get these jackasses who come out of the woodwork stating that they've seen an alien. They saw an alien spacecraft. They've been contacted by alien life. And what do we have by way of objective evidence to prove as much? Their story. Their personal testimonial that these events actually occurred, that they're true. How effing gullible are you? How gullible are you? There aren't any two things that any person does in their life that they aren't willing to video or photograph and then post online. And you want me to believe that these same people were contacted by alien life, didn't have a chance to video it, didn't have a chance to take a photograph. I call bullshit. I call bullshit. Your dog does some dumbass thing that you think is so cute, camera ready, social media post ready, Look at me at the club. Look at me clubbing, out there socializing. Camera ready. Social media post ready. Oh my God, I've been contacted by alien life. And you won't believe it? I didn't have my phone with me. I wasn't camera ready. I wasn't social media post ready. Bullshit. Bullshit. You've recorded and posted every other dumbass thing that you've ever done. But in the one thing that is actually significant, that would advance science, that it would advance human knowledge and understanding, that would demonstrate with objective proof that we aren't alone in the universe, you just didn't have the phone ready. Bullshit. 25 years, jerk-offs. You've got 25 years. Someone's going to have to record an alien. Someone's going to have to record an encounter. Otherwise, those beloved aliens, that myth that you've put all of that emotional energy into, it's going the way of the dragon. And frankly, I think that's a good thing. I'm happy about that. This obsession with aliens is a defeatist mentality. That's right. It is a defeatist mentality that is used to diminish not only personal human capacity, but the capacity of human beings as a collective, as a civilization. There is a difference between having a strong belief in something and simply having wishful thinking. Aliens are simply wishful thinking. The fundamental ethos of belief in aliens is ignorant. It stems from a place of ignorance. Now that works well on cable news networks, but we should leave it there. Speaking of ignorance in television, before we leave the topic of aliens, we have to talk about these television shows. You know the ones I'm talking about. We're going to go and find an alien. We're going to go find evidence of alien life. And moreover, these other television shows. We're going to find Bigfoot. We're searching for ghosts. There's treasure afoot. Just keep digging. How long can these gullible jackasses watch these television shows? Let me spoil them all for you right now. They don't find anything. OJ is going to find the real killers before anyone finds evidence of an alien, a ghost, Bigfoot, or buried treasure. No evidence of alien life. Nope, none. No evidence of any Bigfoot. Nope. He's not out there because he doesn't exist. Oh my God, is this house haunted? No, dimwit, it's not haunted. You want to know why? Because there's no such thing as ghosts. Maybe if we keep digging, we'll find that treasure. Maybe if you keep digging, you'll find yourself in a big goddamn hole. These programs have ruined the History Channel. The History Channel, a channel by its very name, founded on televising shows about history. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Now they show a bunch of dumbasses chasing after their tails and have the highest ratings that they've ever had. Soak it up. Enjoy it. You've got 25 more years. 25 more years before aliens go the way of the dragon. I don't want your stories. I don't want your beliefs. I'm inundated by your mundane posts on social media about what you've eaten, tricks your cat can do, or whatever dumbass dance is the current fad. You want to post something significant? Give me an alien or shut the F up.
Act 3 from Season 1, Episode 23. Originally aired July 24th, 2021. Again with the UFOs.
The military releases some videos of unidentified flying objects being encountered by U.S. Air Force pilots, U.S. Navy pilots, and the alien-loving dunderpates go wild. It's always curious to me that when conspiracy theorists find something, anything, that supports their conspiracy, they are hook, line, and sinker convinced by it. Not a skeptical bone in their body.
You provide them hard evidence about anything. Sun rises in east, sets in west. Seawater is salty. Earth spin round on axis because of gravity. Nope, there's a conspiracy in all of it. There's a conspiracy lurking around every corner until the information provided supports one of their dumbass conspiracies. How convenient. I had several listeners reach out to me, and let me comment on this very quickly. Many listeners, when they actually do reach out to me, they reach out to me directly. What does this mean? It means that practically everyone that listens to this podcast knows me personally and is doing me a favor by listening. Thank you very much. But it does help the podcast if one is to reach out to me via the many outlets that I have now created for said podcast. To use the nomenclature, you tweet at the podcast. You post something on Instagram to the podcast. And now, God help us all, you can actually post something to Facebook directed at the podcast. I had several listeners reach out and say, "Eat crow, you rotten son of a bitch. Look at all these UFO videos. Look at these pilots coming out and attesting to what they've seen." I'm sorry. Not only am I not convinced, I think this is total bullshit. Why is the military releasing these videos now? I'm not going to go through the trouble, although it would probably take me only 30 to 45 seconds to do so on Google, but I believe a couple of the videos, if not one, was from like 2004 or 2005. This is not a recent video. So it seems curious to me that these videos are being released now by the military. The second point I want to make about the video is, good Christ, what are we spending our money on in the U.S. military, in the Pentagon's budget, in our military defense spending? Those videos make the Zapruder film of the Kennedy assassination look like a $220 million CGI from DreamWorks. Blah, 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 blah about how that's the only camera that could pick up this object. And there's a million other reasons why this is the best kind of video that we can produce to the public identifying this UFO. Billions and billions of dollars worth of technology, and it looks like something shot on one of those 35 millimeter cameras that they had in the 1970s. Is this video of an unidentified flying object, or is it my third birthday party? If they release the full clip and you see a kid in plaid bell-bottom pants, I'm sorry, not an unidentified flying object. That was just me chasing after the tumbling weeble-wobble airship. Didn't get that reference? Consult your Google machine. As I stated in episode 2 of this very podcast, I'm not buying. I want high-resolution video shot by someone in civilian capacity, and then I want it contemporaneously to its recording uploaded to the social medias. As I said in the last segment of this very podcast, I go on to the Facebook. I'm now part of it. I live in the same hell that you do, dear listener. Hey, look, my kid did something. Here's a photo of it, contemporaneous to my kid doing that thing. Hey, look, my dog did something. Here's a photo and video of it, contemporaneous to my dog doing that thing. Don't bullshit a bullshitter. If you see an unidentified flying object, I know you've got camera ready. There isn't anything else that we do as human beings that we aren't ready to take a photo or video of and post to social media. No one will be able to use the excuse, I just didn't have my phone ready. I just didn't have my phone nearby. Oh, well, what were you doing? What was going on in your life that was so important that you didn't have the phone ready? Oh, I was eating. Bullshit. I can go onto your social media accounts right now, and out of the last 50 things that you've posted, 39 of them are plates of food. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. I was out walking the dog, and I didn't have the camera with me. Bullshit. There aren't any 3 people in Western or Eastern hemispheres of planet Earth that don't have photos of the animal they possess all over their social media accounts. God forbid Sprinkles gives you that look that's so cute and you don't have phone ready so that you can publish it to the rest of the world. That's what I want to see. I want to see the video on social media. And I don't buy any of this nonsense that somehow the aliens are more sophisticated, the UFOs are more sophisticated. This is actually out in the discourse, the public discourse about UFOs and aliens. That there's some level of sophistication that's not allowing civilian populace, the civilians that would post it to social media, the opportunity to capture as much. As you have heard me say before on the podcast, dear listener, let's think critically, not cynically. Is it not curious that it appears that as technology advances, the level of UFO and alien sophistication advances comparatively? The aliens didn't seem to have any problems. The UFOs didn't seem to have too many concerns with exposing themselves to many a civilian in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and yes, even the 1990s. Eyewitness account after eyewitness account. I saw a UFO. I saw an alien. These people had a plausible excuse on why they weren't able to capture it on film. Because no one in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and yes, even the 90s, carried around a mobile device on them that could capture both video and sound. Now, as every person on planet Earth has the capacity to do so, all of a sudden, the UFOs, the aliens, well, they've gotten so much more prudent. Their level of sophistication has just skyrocketed, hasn't it? Again, the conspiratorial mind becomes quite dull and quite simple when asked to question the very evidence that supports their own conspiracies. And that leads me back to the original question. The military releases these videos. Why now? Here's my conspiracy theory. We've been giving a lot of money to the military. We've been budgeting a lot of money to the Pentagon for Afghanistan. Folks, welfare is welfare. Any argument that you can make to giving welfare to any individual single mother, any individual family, it applies the same way to a business. It applies the same way to a governmental agency. The Pentagon has gotten spoiled on welfare money for Afghanistan for 20 years. And we're leaving. The U.S. is leaving Afghanistan, and it's not going to not only fund the military budget for a military presence in the country, but we sure as hell aren't going to continue to give that corrupt-ass government any more money. Well, there's going to be quite an excess in that budget next year, isn't there? Unleash them their aliens. Unleash them their UFOs. You can't cut our budget because we've got to get to the bottom of these unidentified flying objects. We're going to make it priority one that the American people understand what is the nature of these objects. Are they a threat? Are they something that we can track and that we can begin to educate the American public about? You, as a people, don't want to forego the opportunity to discover what this actually is, what these phenomenon are. With a paltry $80 to $90 billion, we're going to be able to get to the bottom of this. You will both feel safe, secure, protected, and you will become more educated. You will become more enlightened. I'm not buying, dear listener. I'm not buying. This has not moved the needle for me at all. As I said so succinctly in the second episode of this very podcast, give me an alien, give me a UFO, or shut the hell up.
Act 4 Epilogue. I pray for guidance, and it came through me to keep the podcast going.
I was pretty much done. I thought the podcast was over, and I was happy with that. I wasn't happy necessarily with what I had done in the podcast. I wasn't ashamed. There was a lot of growth. It taught me a lot. Given all of the changes in my life, I thought I was done with it. And I really prayed on it. I go into the red every month on it. And here I am changing careers and spending a lot of money on that. This is all coming out of my savings. And I thought, okay, well,
It was a good run. It was entertaining. I enjoyed doing it. I had some fun with my friends. It's time to be done. Nope. The universe is not done with me yet. The universe is not done with me yet in the podcasting, maybe even YouTube space. I don't know what the future holds. I know, though, that I need to keep going. Oh, I've been a disobedient man for many years when it comes to the things that I've prayed on and the signs, the inspiration that I've gotten from the universe. And disobedient, I am no more. Onward we go. This is Why I Don't Vote, a podcast.